left a disaster impact on our world throughout the different periods of history. The COVID-19 pandemic has already affected our lives in an unprecedented way. Like from economy to education, every sector has been hard hit by the pandemic. So, life of every individual, as we all know, of the society is affected, and the woman life is no different, right? So, a few days ago, there was a debate surrounding why women are submitting less online papers in comparison to men. So, well, this is one of the many challenges faced by women. So, in order to trace the reason, we need to understand the impact of COVID-19 on women's health. The topic of today's webinar, we believe, is very much relevant in the present scenario. So, so without wasting any more time, let's hear our resource persons. I hope we all be will be highly benefited from both our resource persons' presentation. Thank you. Now, Dipshika sir, over to you. Dipshika sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for that introduction. Uh, Women empowerment, if you go on talking the term women empowerment, that is truly a vast topic. But I believe to more elaborate uh, exchange of ideas, we have brought on two speakers on the dais today. So one is Rituparna Padgiri ma'am, and the second speaker is Maureen Kolta ma'am. So Rituparna Padgiri ma'am, I believe those who have attended our previous webinars, you are very much well acquainted with ma'am. She is a research scholar plus she is a writer too. So being a writer, she has a in-depth knowledge regarding this topic. So without wasting any further time, I would like Rituparna ma'am to please come into the session. Ma'am, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll just share my screen. Yeah.
Just a minute. Please.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen.
Over to you. Okay, as ma'am is sharing her screen, let me again reiterate whatever I was telling before. Please do not click on present now option. Present now is only for the speakers. Present now option to কোনেও যাতে ক্লিক নকৰক এই অপশনটো অকল স্পিকাৰবোৰৰ কাৰণে হয় আৰু কাইন্ডলি চাব যে নিজৰ মাইকটো মিউটেড থাকে সবে Thank you.
Is my screen visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just begin. Hello, everyone.
Just a moment. Let me say something. To participants, if your screen is not coming on the full screen, the this screen only memo presentation to aha nai. এটা হলে যোনটো সৰুকে প্ৰেজেন্টেশন হৈ আছে মেমৰ তাতে ক্লিক কৰি পিন অপচন আছে বোর্ড পিনৰ দৰে এটা অপচন আহে এই পিনটো ক্লিক কৰিলে ফুল স্ক্ৰিন হৈ যাব যদিহে ফুল স্ক্ৰিন হোৱা নাই Thank you. Ma'am, please continue.
Yeah. Okay. So many of you already know me. My name is Rituparna Padgiri. Actually, I have been born and brought up in Assam. My parents are from Assam, but I have studied in Delhi and now I work there. I also would want to say thank you for inviting me to this event to speak on a topic which is very, very close to my heart. Now, when Dipshekhar gave the example of Nalbari district being dominated by women, it is something which is visible for our naked eyes to see. We can all see that some important positions are being held by women as compared to the other genders, right? But there are certain things which we barely see. For instance, there is a running joke that goes on in many WhatsApp groups as well as gatherings that women take a lot of time to dress up and actually, get ready when there is an event to go to. But we fail to realize that probably the women take time because they're also looking at how the children are dressing up. They're also taking clothes out for their husbands, for their other family members, which, the male members generally don't do. Or rather, in even a family which has more than one women member, it will be the mother doing it. So these are subtle things, very, very implicit gender different things that we don't see and we acknowledge, which become jokes after that. So when we talk about women's empowerment, the topic of our discussion today, the thing to remember is that women's empowerment means that they have the equal opportunities as men to succeed in life. So it means that if a man has 10 number of opportunities, a woman also should have that. Many a times what happens is because of the rites of passages and rituals or traditions that exist in our society, women actually miss out on many of them. That is why I'm talking about the gendered impact of COVID-19 on women's empowerment, by which I mean that because of being or belonging or identifying as a particular gender, women miss out on certain opportunities, and how this pandemic, which is supposed to be a health crisis, is actually accelerating social issues as well, right? So, to begin, we all know, and perhaps there is actually not much to say again, that all our lives after the COVID-19 pandemic. We have started living at home more and engaging in household activities. Some of our or some of us actually as women are lucky that the men in the house help out, and I use the term help out in this context because the duty to do household work is generally seen as that of women's, but many others are not that lucky in that sense, right? So what happens is that a lot of women have been disproportionately affected by this pandemic in more than one issue. Women's burdens have increased because there has been increase in the time that people have spent at home. For instance, Dimpy ma'am just pointed out that there has been a debate that I had referred to in my previous talk as well, that women researchers are submitting less papers than men researchers. The reason being that they are unable to juggle between the two kinds of activities, which is both domestic and educational. It is not that women are not as smart as men. It is just that their social conditions are different, right? So when a pandemic happens, it is but natural that people who are already marginalized becomes more vulnerable. For instance, by now we are aware that how the poor and the lower middle class are facing a lot of issues in terms of money, financial issues, right? But the condition of the women are not being talked about in that sense. So I actually want to shed light on some of the things that are happening in the garb of the name of the pandemic. So COVID-19 has become a sort of for us. Every day there is some kind of new information that it could be airborne, that it could stay on till 2021. Some say it could stay on till 2022. So all of this are like a lot of mystery, right? But what is happening is that if you trace it back to the other coronavirus outbreaks, for instance, this COVID-19 is actually called novel coronavirus, right? So there were other outbreaks in the 2003 SARS and 2012 MERS epidemic, in which we saw that men die more than women. Even in COVID-19, it is a biological or a statistical fact that men are dying more than women. It is perhaps something to do with their body types and immunity systems. But what is happening is that the socio-economic consequences of COVID-19 are actually stacking the deck against women. So although health-wise it's a crisis that's impacting more men, socially and economically, many more women are at risk, especially in countries like India, where gender inequality is a persistent challenge. It is very unfortunate to say that, but most women who are present in this webinar or even otherwise would say that, you know, they have faced some kind of harassment at least once in their life. So that does not say well about something well about our societies, right? Because this is the kind of societies that we live in. And imagine a pandemic on top of that. So that is why perhaps it becomes important to understand that how women will be affected. I begin with talking about economic and educational effects. First of all, there is a digital divide that exists in India, where most people don't have access to the internet or the laptops or smartphones. And it is again a gender divide in the sense that girls in countries like India actually have much less access to the internet. So when things have all moved online, it is implicit that women are going to lose out on more jobs compared to men, right? There are also shifts in how we operate. A lot of companies and jobs will actually become mechanized. So when jobs become mechanized, again, there will be a lot of job cuts, which means that many women will be relegated to menial tasks. For instance, I'll give you an example from the field of my study. I have studied food and eating cultures in India for the past 6 years or so now. And when we look at the industry of restaurants, we see that most of the top-notch jobs or the so-called jobs that require communication at the front end are all led by men. Women sort of are relegated to the secondary roles. So this happens in almost every industry. The men are the cooks, the men do most of the waitressing and the bringing, whereas women are engaged in probably washing dishes and backhand cutting of vegetables, washing vegetables, such kinds of work. So once there is a job cut, what happens is that women will bear the brunt in these particular cases. So that is why one has to understand that the female labor force participation in India, which was already very, very low, which is 24%, if employment continues to drop post COVID-19, women will only lose out on more jobs. What this will do is also bring India's GDP down. The total gross domestic production, of course, is a reflection of the labor force participation and productivity and income by the country as a whole. So in case women lose out, definitely the country as a whole is not going to be benefited. Now, the Indian government had announced cash transfers of 500 rupees per month to women who have a Jan Dhan account for the first 3 months of the pandemic. But we all know that 500 rupees is not adequate to cover any kind of expenses in today's world. So what possibly more can be done in this particular regard? Secondly, we all are aware that the Indian economy is actually very much dependent on the informal sector. A lot of our domestic workers, care workers, handloom workers are all informal sector workers. So the International Labour Organization says that 81% of Indian women work in the informal economy. So once we have had the lockdown and laid off so many of our domestic workers and other kinds of informal sector workers, the brunt is going to increase more and more. The women probably, the community of women as a whole have been more engaged in informal sector. This is again because of socio-cultural reasons, right? So if men have been more educated, they have access to better jobs, and women have been relegated to the informal sector. So what happens is that they'll lose out on more jobs again because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, these are some of the economic factors affecting lives of women post-COVID-19. Educationally, I'll give you an example from Brazil after the outbreak of the Zika virus. Many of you may have remembered the outbreak of the Zika virus, after which, when schools had reopened, there were lockdowns even then, but we didn't know much about it because it was not worldwide. It was in some parts of the world, including in Brazil. What had happened was that most women did not return to education after the lockdown was lifted. This is because suddenly the families realized that if the women stay, they will be doing the household chores and they don't have to, worry about that. So they stopped the women from going back to schools, and only the men went back, or even to the, jobs. So this is something that women today are afraid of happening again post the COVID-19 pandemic. And the government and we as civil society and the state have an equally responsible role to play that this does not happen, right? Now, there is also something called the gross educational enrollment, which is higher for girls. In the past few years, we have also been seeing how girls have done consistently well in exams, school examinations, when we follow the news. But what happens is that boys have a much longer average of continuing in school. So what this means is that although many girls enroll in schools, it is boys who continue, spending time in school. So ultimately, this also happens because girls face external issues in their schooling life. Excuse me, not just from their family pressure to get married, but also because lack of, proper toilets, hygienic places. Then they may face sexual and verbal harassment. So that is why a lot of girls drop out in between. So this is again where the COVID-19 pandemic could play a much more important role in making parents see that probably girls should be at home. So again, this is an issue that we would be dealing with. Since today we are already at July and we have to start prepping for post-COVID-19 or a world where we live with the virus, it is important to keep these issues in mind when we think about education. Similarly, in many schools, there are midday meals provided to children, even in Assam. This is part of the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Now, this is very important for many girls for their nourishment, is again why the data backs up the fact that women get less nutrition compared to men in many households. There is something called the National Health Family Survey, which says that women drink much less milk and eat much less fruits than men. Now, in many households where we are privileged, parents don't do that. They'll give equal nutrition to either girl or boys. It doesn't depend on the gender. But in poorer households and in places where a patriarchy has a stronghold, men get the preference in terms of food as well as nutrition. So the education that the schools was providing was important, and along with it, even the nutritious meals. Although we know that the midday meals receive a lot of criticism in the press for being under quality, but for many poor people, they were actually a source of meal and nutrition. So again, this is something which we haven't thought of, that how do we deal with it? When we talk about empowerment, we talk about political empowerment, and that women should lead decision making. Women should take part in good jobs. But these are things that we don't even think of. That what is happening to nutrition, or why are girls enrolling in educational institutions and then dropping out? So these things will have a stronger bearing on the COVID-19 pandemic and how we see its impact on women's empowerment. One can easily see that women are missing out on a lot of opportunities as compared to men. Now, social consequences of COVID-19. One of the things that NGOs in Assam and worldwide have been talking about is that domestic violence has increased worldwide after the COVID-19 pandemic. This is because it is very easy to understand. People are staying home all the time, and a lot of people, including us, are getting frustrated, are getting miserable. So it is taken out on a lot of women, So that is why domestic violence has increased. At the same time, they have no access to police service or other emergency helplines. So these are things that we have to take in mind when the state actually prepares for a pandemic. It is important to keep in mind that there are social issues associated with it, right? Similarly, what about women's reproductive and sexual health services? They don't come within the ambit of essential services, or actually initially did not. So if somebody is pregnant and has to give birth, so what about their rights, medical rights? Now, a Delhi-based women's organization called SAMA, SAMA, was actually forced to file a petition in the courts and demanded that pregnant women be given the right to have an ambulance carry them to the hospital. We see news a lot of times that, women gave birth in the road itself. So this is because, these kinds of things are missing from how policymakers imagine the world. Now, one can also argue that how can you miss out on something as trivial as this from policy making? It is because if most of the policymakers are men, they don't think about the women because you're oriented like that, right? So that is why in a policy making board, it will perhaps help if there are 50% men and 50% women, and also equal representation to other genders, right? So that we can think about each one of us. The one of the other things is care work. We know the role that nurses have played in this pandemic, the Anganwadi workers and ASHA workers. They have suddenly become very important, and we realize their worth in this pandemic. Similarly, the homemakers as well, like I have mentioned, most of us are staying home. So many of the women are performing a lot of caregiving activities. Now, our mothers, our caregivers actually don't earn at all. Similarly, nurses and ASHA workers, they earn very less. So what is happening is that they're getting exposed to a deadly disease and at the same time not earning much. So this is some kind of an socio-economic predicament that exists today, right? Now, the ILO again says that women spend 4.1 times more than men in Asia and the Pacific on unpaid care work. Now, what does unpaid care work mean? It involves, again, things like cooking, cleaning, fetching water. So these are all care work that involves labor, but they never get paid for it. So this is only increasing with COVID-19. One of the solutions that economists actually suggest for this is to include housework in the ambit of the GDP. So if housework is included and counted as something which is economically productive, much of this problem gets solved, right? Now, coming to Indian women, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development show that Indian women actually do nearly 6 hours of unpaid care work each day. That is a lot. Some of us even get irritated when we have to do 1 extra hour of work, and imagine 6 hours of unpaid work. So a little recognition in that way can actually go in solving a lot of the economic issues and the health issues that we are facing. Another interesting example, which many of us in Assam probably wouldn't be able to identify with, is a water crisis and its gendered connotations. In places like Delhi and Mumbai, where water is a scarce commodity, many women have to line up for long hours before getting water. Now, COVID-19 again is a disease which, according to which we have to wash our hands many times, as well as most people are staying in, which means that water needs have increased, which again means that women have to spend more time than before queuing up for water. This is also leading to other consequences, that when women go out to fetch water, they often face sexual and verbal forms of harassment. So these are certain gender-related things that the COVID-19 pandemic is throwing open at us, right? I will have to say that these issues have always existed in our society. The COVID-19 pandemic has only accelerated them, so or sort of highlighted them, which was, in a way, laid buried. Now, what can we do in the future? This is a short roadmap. What we can also do is that make women equal participants in this policy-making process, so that their voices are heard, our voices are heard, and people come to know that we have different needs. There can be flexible work arrangements to balance work and family commitments, right? So when we look at how a woman is dealing with both domestic and her office or outside work, we understand that she's coming from a particular position. When we talk about how women become invisible in certain policies, I just gave the example of how the government did not think of women who give birth, and therefore that was not part of it. Similarly, some essential service items like sanitary napkins did not even find a place in the list of essential services or goods initially. So that was then again, done through telling the government. What I'm trying to say is that when policy responses are framed by governments, they have to be equal and accessible to all. So they should take into account that women too should have access to affordable healthcare and social protection. from the previous times, we had actually made remarkable progress in trying to make women much more participatory, much more emancipatory. And this was done through a lot of political, legal, economic measures. Now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a fear that we will be going back to the previous kind of situation where women were primarily seen as the homemakers. So what we need to do at this point of time as citizens, as responsible citizens, is take cognizance of the fact that women are, like Principal Sir had said, 50% of our population, and they too need that equal kind of opportunity or access to become empowered in the real sense of the term. I'll end my talk with two short points. One is that the UNFPA, which is one of the organizations of the United Nations, it wants that the pandemic could actually reduce progress against gender-based violence by 1/3, which is going to be a very sad thing, right? For instance, when we look at sports, cricket, at one point of time, India, could not perform well when it went abroad. But as time has progressed and with different kinds of captaincies, we have become a very good even in abroad. Now, suddenly, if again we become bad, what will happen is that it will be considered a degeneration, not a progress, because we had reached a particular situation or a phase. Similarly, this is the case with women's empowerment, that we had reached a particular stage. Women had started claiming the public spaces as their own along with men. But if because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to go back to a situation where they were barely visible or their burden increases, that is where the gendered impact will be much more visible again. So yes, the COVID-19 pandemic is a health pandemic, but it has also economic and social consequences, and it can create hurdles towards women's empowerment. With this, I end my talk. Thank you, everyone.